Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Great Day Houston. If you are going through a tough time, our first guest is so inspirational and proof that life can be 5% what happens to you, 95% what you do with it. At the age of 10, Bill Sarpalius and his brothers were abandoned by their father. His family was left hungry and homeless with their alcoholic mother, sleeping in vacant houses and digging for food in trash cans. Then something happened that would forever change his life. Here to tell us what helped him overcome impossible odds to achieve the American dream is Bill Sarpalius, author of The Grand Duke from Boys Ranch. Good morning.
Good morning.
Wow. From early on, you were in this world fighting. You dealt with polio, and
That's
you were
right.
in and out of hospitals all the time.
Well, I had polio as a young boy, and fortunately I was here in Houston. So I was in St. Joseph Hospital, and I can still remember these Catholic nuns massaging my arms and legs for hours every day.
Yeah.
My arms and legs had shrunk to the point where I could take my fingers like that, run them up and down my arms and legs and not touch the skin.
Wow. So while you were in the hospital, life at home with the family was pretty chaotic. You had a mom who was an alcoholic, and then by the time you were 10 years old, your dad left.
My dad left and walked out the door, and I didn't see him again till 35 years later.
Wow. All right. There was a point where she could no longer take care of you all. And then she attempted suicide several times in front of you.
Yes.
How do you metabolize that as a child?
You don't forget it. And she wanted what was best for us, but she reached that point where she knew something had to be done.
Right.
We had no family members, nobody that would take us. So we were sent to Cal Farley's Boys Ranch, north of Amarillo. Cal Farley, when he started it, his goal was to create a home for the bottom 10%, kids that nobody else wanted.
Yeah.
And
you showed up there with everything you owned in a little cardboard box?
Everything my two brothers and I owned was in one cardboard box in the trunk. Half the kids that lived there at that time had committed violent crimes, and half of them were kids like us.
Yeah.
So when you mix those two in an environment like that, it was a little bit tough. But when we went there, we found ourselves in a dorm with 36 boys, and nearly close to 400 kids were living there at the time from all over the country. Yeah, and he was a father figure for all of us. Mm-hmm. He was a wonderful man, and we all appreciated the fact that he was out there trying to raise money to help us. And he did help thousands and thousands of kids that had no place to go.
Yeah. We've heard a lot of stuff about the Boys Ranch, stories where boys said, I grew up there, and that's my foundation today, and others who talked about that there was abuse there as well.
Well, there was, and at that particular time, child care facilities were not regulated, they were not inspected, there was nothing available at that time. So when you're stuck in an environment with living with violent kids, and at the same time there were some staff that were violent, you just learned how to survive. I knew the only way I could make it through school was to run for state president of the Future Farmers of America. If I got elected, in return, I would get a scholarship from the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. And that program has helped over 18,000 kids.
Wow.
The city of Houston is just an amazing city, how they support that program to help all these kids throughout the state.
In the Texas State Senate, and one thing that I think is so amazing of what you did is you took the tragedy that you dealt with as a child and tried to make an impact in state law. Your mother committed suicide in a mental institution for alcoholism, but you wanted to establish treatment centers in Texas because you know that had we known at that time about treatment and effective treatment, it could have made all the difference.
Exactly, and that was my sole purpose of running for the Texas Senate. And the alcohol and beer lobby were so strong at the time I couldn't even get a hearing on a bill.
Yeah.
So I wrote the DWI bill, and it was the first bill in the nation that allowed for video cameras.
Then you ran for U.S. Congress.
Well, when I went to Washington, I sat in my chair in my office, was wondering what am I going to do now to help people? And little did I know a few hours later, this man from Lithuania, who's a music teacher, came into my office and told me about my uncle, who was a famous composer of music in Lithuania. I didn't know anything about my family.
Yeah. Lithuania gave you the highest award for a non-citizen. They called it the Grand Duke of Lithuania. There are so many great stories in this book, and as I mentioned earlier, if you're going through a tough time, it's so inspirational. But your big takeaway is you can overcome adversity. Never give up. Hard work always pays off. Have faith and pursue your dreams. The book made the bestseller list in the first 2 months on Amazon, and I think the reason why is because people are looking for hope. This is hope when a lot of people feel very helpless. I want to thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
And thank you most of all for sharing this story.